Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to a new episode of The First Draft. I am your host, Rabia Molai, and today I have with me...
I'm Nina Banks. I'm a campus editor for The Collegian.
And Hope Smith. I'm also a campus editor for The Collegian.
In case you didn't notice, Ola is not with us in the studio. So we have Nina, who is guest appearancing, and we're super happy to have you, Nina. I hope you're having fun with us.
Yes, I'm so excited to be here.
I know.
We're excited to have you.
Nina said before we started that she's living out her NPR dreams. So we're really happy to be able to make your dreams come true, Nina.
I'm so glad to be
How are you guys doing today? Today is a Monday. We're starting a new week. I know that Mondays for me are always stressful because I don't like waking up for the first day of a week. So how's it going for you guys?
It's already starting off weird. Slept in, missed my first class.
Oh, that's like the worst when you wake up late and you're like, oh my God, what time is it?
Right.
Yeah.
You know when like your eyes naturally open and you're like, oh no, this is not how I'm supposed to wake up.
Yeah. It's like your body knows.
I don't know about you guys, but no matter how late I am for some unknown reason, the first thing that I do is I'll like open my phone and like scroll through like social media notifications and stuff. And I'm like, damn it, I didn't want to do that. Like the night before, I'm always like, no, you're not going to touch your phone this morning. But then I wake up and I'm like, just a little bit. And then I end up being late.
Yeah.
Social media is so weirdly addictive.
Absolutely.
Like, I don't know if that's just like, I know it's not just a me thing. Obviously, social media is addictive and difficult for everybody. But I feel like recently, like, I'll, like, open my phone, and it's like I don't even want to be looking, but you just are. Like, it's mindless scrolling, and it becomes so easy to do that you can't even help it.
I know. I stay up late so many nights just being on social media. And it's like, okay, after this one, I'll go to bed, you know? And I don't go to bed until I'm, like, physically like, okay, maybe it's time to go to bed,
Yeah.
you know?
Like, even I tried putting, like, one of those timers on my phone where it will, like, automatically shut off all of these apps at midnight. But it'll give you this option where it's like, oh, delay for 1 minute or delay for 15 minutes or delay for the rest of the day. And I'm like, no, why? Because it's so tempting.
Yeah.
My screen time reports are like awful. They keep going up.
Screen time reports, I actually think it was really helpful for me to be like, oh, my God, is this how much time I'm spending on my phone? And then it went down, like, significantly. But then, you know, obviously every so often it'll jump up again. You can't help it. But it's so hard. I just feel like if it's hard for us at this age where you're more, like, I guess, developed and you're able to, like, consciously make decisions, I can't imagine what it must be like for younger kids. Because nowadays you look around and, like, every kid above the age of, like, 4 or 5 has some form of a device that they have access to. And it's like... Even video games now, like, it's all a form of social media if you think about it. Like, Roblox and Fortnite and all that, they have all these chats and, like, people can talk to each other, which in and of itself, to me, freaks me out.
Yeah.
It's so
you don't know who you're talking to, you know? And, like, these kids don't know. And I have seen time and time again, kids just, like, releasing their information. You know, it takes one question for them to be like, oh, I actually live in this state on this street, and, like, this is my full birth name, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
it's so alarming. Like, I was at work, and some mom was, like, to her 5-year-old, like, Tammy, get your phone out of the cart. And she was, like, 5. And I was like wow. It was an iPhone, like, a good iPhone. And I was like, what?
Come on.
I feel like for me, growing up, like, the only media I was really exposed to was probably, like, YouTube and then, like, television. Like, you know, like TV, like cable TV was like Disney Channel and like all that stuff. Like, it was still media that affected me at the time. Like, there was nothing I wanted more in life than to be freaking Sharpay Evans and London Tipton. Like, that was peak. That's who I wanted to be. But those things I feel like weren't as, I guess, destructive as social media can be nowadays. Because now it's not, oh, this is satirical, you know, this is a TV show. We can explain to kids that this isn't real. For them, social media is real. You know, that is their real life. Even Be Real. We were talking about Be Real like 5 minutes ago. That now it's supposed to be like a pure, unfiltered like version of social media, but still. I mean, I'm sure there are people who like zhuzh up before they take a Be Real and like post later, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot harder to monitor and make content that's digestible for kids because they have access to virtually anything. Like when we didn't have phones or tablets and stuff like that, like I couldn't go on Instagram and find like Summer Rae. Like it was just like all that I was able to see was like Nickelodeon, Disney Channel.
Yeah.
I feel like I think that's a good place to start too, is like how old kids are when they get their phones nowadays. Like I was 13 when I got my first phone. Like how old were you guys?
I think like 6th grade, just because I was joining a lot of clubs and I needed to contact my mom, but it wasn't
that's
like
different.
a personal like I just wanted one.
Yeah.
Yeah, the same. I think I was around 6th grade, and it was just like I had to be able to contact my parents.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like that was the main reason I got mine too, was like when you turn 13 and you're joining clubs and like you're staying after school late and like the front office is closing so you can't use the landline, like that, you know, you needed to have a phone.
Right.
But now it's like my nieces and nephews have their own iPads. Not like, oh, this is their like mom and dad's iPad that they're just using. No. This is their iPad.
Yeah.
And like that, I feel like no matter how much you try to be like, yeah, I put parental controls on it and they can't do this, they can't do that, like kids are smart.
Yeah, and they just keep getting smarter.
Yeah.
You know, and as soon as they get around that roadblock,
Oh yeah, like there is no way your child doesn't know how to just go to settings and turn this off. Like
I was sneaky on like a family computer, so I can't imagine having your whole device to yourself.
I mean, like I remember like the dumb stuff that I did when I was a kid, like, you know, searching things up on YouTube and like whatever, like the things that I was exposed to at a young age that I'm like, okay, this was stupid and it was probably not smart, but it wasn't dangerous.
Right.
Like now I feel like the issue has become that it's genuinely a threat to these kids' safety, the safety of their parents. Like it's a real problem.
Yeah.
Like I remember when it was like we were talking earlier about the Amanda Todd situation, which if you don't know who Amanda Todd is, Amanda Todd was a girl who I believe was 13 or 14 years old, and she was coerced in a large group chat online to basically flash a bunch of people, and a man ended up taking a screenshot of her and terrorizing her over the internet, and she was so badly bullied that she ended up committing suicide. It is a very horrific story. It's
heartbreaking.
It's heartbreaking. It's one of the worst things that a parent can go through, to know that your child in your own home is not safe and being so badly bullied to the point where they felt the need to take their own life. It's a horrifying thing, and it's even worse to see that situations like that are kind of almost being forgotten about,
right? And
still the same things are happening more and more, you know?
And I think something interesting is the fact, I don't know where I heard this, but I think it speaks volumes, the fact that, you know, with all of that access to like media and like all of these like chatting services, you know, you can get bullied at school, but it follows you home, you know, and like you can't get away from that kind of stuff, you know, and that is scary.
That's the part that I think a lot of parents forget. Like when there are some parents who will be like, oh, you know, everybody gets bullied. You just need to learn to, you know, have thick skin and a stronger backbone. Like bullying is not the same as it used to be when our parents were young. Like you could come home and get away from your bullies. No, our bullies follow us around in the back of our pocket, constantly whispering in your ear, being like, oh, you look ugly, or you need, like, you're awful, you're terrible. Like, all of these things are out there for everyone to see.
Yeah.
And it's horrendous.
It's like the difficult part of, like, I guess this specific part of, like, Gen Z, like, 2002 to 2004, like, that part. Because we're sandwiched between millennials that didn't get social media until they were teenagers, so they were probably more responsible. And now these kids that are getting social media at like 8 and being exposed to all this, where we were exposed at a young age, but we still didn't have access, and parents did not have to have this problem. And like you said, they don't know how to deal with it. And honestly, I don't even know if I would know how to deal with it as a parent.
Because I feel like there's two sides to every coin. And you know what? Well, actually, there's 3 sides to every coin: the front, the back, and the side edge. And so there is the people who are like, absolutely no, there's no social media allowed, you shouldn't be on it. There's the people, and then there's the people who are like, well, it doesn't matter. They need to learn how to use it anyways because everything is online. And then there's that side edge. And the side edge happens to be that the world is growing. The world is technology. Like, social media is the now and it is the future, whether we like it or not. And completely alienating a child from that is not smart. Yeah. That is just impractical in and of itself, because if you're not going to give it to them, they're going to go and they're going to get it from a friend. And if they're getting it from a friend, they're not going to know how to be safe. They're not going to have any knowledge, because when you're young and you're asking your peers, you and your peers are pulling from the same small pool of knowledge, There's no depth to that.
Yeah.
And then if you completely let them go, it's like, okay, well, now there's no supervision. There's no guidance again. Like, I can't imagine the stress that these new parents are under on what is the right time to have a phone or social media, or especially people who, like, expose their kids on social media super early, like people who have Instagrams for their children. I'm like, that scares me.
Yeah. Like now it's like a question, like, do you even post your kids? Like the amount of like the YouTube scandals of like like pedophiles like finding these family channels and stuff like that. Like, it is insane. And like, it's like something as simple as like playground, like showing your kids, but people can find that content and make disturbing, like,
like, there are disgusting, horrifying people in the world. And I don't know if you guys heard about this little girl. It was a scandal on TikTok, and the little girl's name is like Ren Eleanor, like, beautiful little girl, like, she's freaking adorable. But people were noticing that a lot of the followers on this little girl's page that her mom was running were like grown men. And it was uncomfortable. And then there was a lot of people saying that they had seen photos of her on inappropriate websites. And it was like, that's horrifying. Like, can you imagine just like waking up in the morning and somebody being like, hey, I found your kid on so-and-so website. Like, oh my God.
Yeah. And definitely, like, I feel like a lot of us, especially like girls, like, we've become so desensitized. Like, as soon as you get Instagram, you'll get DMs like, need a sugar daddy or whatever. And we're just like, oh, that's a funny joke, but like, that's actually like terrifying that we're just so used to.
That is a topic that I think people don't touch on a lot, is that how desensitized people have to become now to digest these things. Because like, when I was younger, like, especially because like the Amanda Todd situation happened, I watched that when I was really, really young. Like, I heard about it probably when I was like 11 or 12 is when that happened. So any little message, any like, any follow from a person I didn't know freaked me out so bad that that perpetuated my anxiety to a whole nother level. So, I mean, having to deal with that and then growing up and learning to desensitize yourself and be able to digest it, that is so hard.
Yeah, I know what Nina said, especially about like the Instagram DMs. Like, that's just Joe reaching out to girls, but he's reaching out to high school girls. And that's the scariest part,
And what's sad is for a lot of kids, that may be the only validation that they're getting. And if the people around you aren't going to give it to you, of course there's people on the internet who are going to give it to you for the worst reasons possible. And when you're that young, it's hard to differentiate good attention from bad attention, especially when there's so many people around you being like, all attention is good attention, everything is great, you should just reply to him, or those people who are like, oh, you should let him down easy, don't be mean. Absolutely not. Be mean. Like, that is the biggest lesson I think every girl in America and all over the world needs to learn. Be mean.
I wish people had taught me that younger. Just to be mean. I wish.
Like, if it comes down to your safety, your health, your happiness, your peace, be mean.
And everything about cyberbullying that we were like taught in schools was so watered down. Like, it was like, if someone is commenting like, be ugly, you're ugly, tell a teacher, tell a parent, and report them. And it's like, it really not that simple.
Like that.
No,
it worsens.
Absolutely. It gets worse. And the most annoying part is you can block a person, you can delete comments, whatever, but who's stopping that person from making another account? It takes 2 seconds to make an Instagram account, And it's like, that's one of the reasons why I personally have my Instagram privated.
Yeah.
Just because, like, the idea of random people seeing my photos, seeing my life, like, that to me is stressful.
Yeah.
And I got bullied for that in high school. Like, I had a bunch of girls who were like, ew, why is your Instagram private? Like, what's wrong with you? I'm like,
Yeah.
like, why is this up for conversation?
Right.
Like,
It's a very private thing. Like,
it is.
I mean, all my followers and like people that I know, like, I don't really let people that I
Yeah.
don't know follow me. It's like, it's,
It's just my circle.
Yeah.
You know?
I think it's also interesting how social media has affected the way people communicate with each other. Like, you'll meet people who have, like, a whole separate friend group or friend base that is online.
like mutuals and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
mutuals and things like that. Or even, like, the way people go about, like, forming relationships. Like, you'll ask somebody, oh, like, where'd you meet your significant other? Oh, we DM'd each other on Instagram. Like, that's great. Like, if you're able to make connections that way, that's wonderful. Social media is a tool to connect with people. But on the other side of that, with the amount of unsavory characters, I guess you could say, that you can find on social media, I can't imagine it being easy to find somebody trustworthy or, reliable to talk to.
Yeah.
It's so easy because there's not a screen, so like seeing all these like horrific DMs that girls get from guys on like apps, like just like being so gross, like
And the catfishing, like the girls talking to who they assume is one guy, and then all of a sudden you go to meet up in person, it's like a 45-year-old guy who you've never seen before, and you're like, oh my god, you're old enough to be my dad, what is happening?
Yeah.
Like, that is freaky.
oh yeah.
And I think something also interesting that you guys mentioned was like the training in schools, and like they'll show documentaries, and some of these things are scary. Like, and I think a lot of the time people really milk it, and it becomes less of like a warning and more of like scary,
Yeah,
So
we want to instill fear in you.
Exactly. I think one of them was that crazy YouTube video, the Megan is Missing movie show thing.
Oh my god.
I refuse to watch that.
Yeah.
I have heard stories, and it's like, what? Like, I get that part of it is like a documentary, and like you want to inform people, but like, is this how you inform people?
Yeah, it's a lot of scare tactics.
And not only that, it's just on YouTube.
Yeah.
It's on
anyone can
YouTube.
see
I thought it was on Netflix.
I'm pretty sure it's on YouTube.
Oh my god, that's awful.
Yeah.
That's one of the things too, is that you can't censor things. Like, it's out there. I mean, even just plain access to Google, you can find anything and everything. And I think there was a recent statistic that I heard that if you're a parent, by the time your child is in 3rd grade, you should expect that they have seen some form of pornography.
Oh yeah.
That's
That's
insane.
That's awful.
obscene.
That's
Yeah.
awful. Like, can you imagine, like, how old are you in the 3rd grade?
Yeah.
Like,
why is it that accessible?
yeah, like, you're what, like 8 years old? Like, that's awful.
Oh.
Like, I don't even think I had hormones at that point. I was just like, la-di-da, lip gloss and glitter and unicorns, everything is great. And these poor kids are going on the internet. Like, everybody's curious at a certain age to know what things are, how a relationship works, or what's going on with your body. All of those things are normal. But to leave it in the hands of the internet to teach those things to your children,
Yeah.
terrible.
Yeah.
It really comes down to like development. I don't think a child should have access to those things. And like, have you guys seen the statistics of like things that are searched for? Like,
Yeah.
things that these children should not see are just there. It's
Yeah, no.
horrible. And they don't have that development in their head to be able to separate these things. For them, it's all the same.
oh yeah, no, your brain isn't fully developed until you're 25 years old. Think about that. Like, our brains aren't fully developed yet.
Yeah.
And we're already having the conversation of, is this safe? I should have known this when I was younger, whatever. So these kids who are 8, 9, and 10 years old going on the internet, just having access to every form of information, good, bad, and otherwise, like, that is awful.
Yeah.
Like, there's a kid out there somewhere, like, looking at, like, the front page of, like, the KKK website, reading about it and being like, oh, this makes sense.
Yeah.
Like,
because they're just a kid.
Yeah, that's another thing. Like, the whole alt-right pipeline.
Oh
Like, you
my
get
God.
one video,
oh,
and
yeah.
then kids are, like, saying anti-Semitic, anti-Black, like,
Yeah.
you know, like,
Yeah.
all these different things at school, and they're being exposed, and no one is censoring this. Like,
Exactly.
you can get into forums like 4chan and all that stuff.
Especially for
Yeah, and, like,
yeah.
Bro, and even more than that, like you said, you search one thing and then that's all that's gonna show up.
Exactly.
Especially on things like TikTok or Instagram or whatever. Yeah, like TikTok and Instagram for sure. You look at one thing for too long, and that is all you will see.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's so harmful. Even when we talk about things like Andrew Tate, for example, like the things that he's saying. Can you imagine being a young kid and hearing that, and then that's all that's on your feed, and you're like, okay, so this is how I should go about a relationship. This is how I should be treating my significant other. Like,
yeah.
And especially relationships and just, like, children's, their, like, development. Like, I don't know how to word this correctly, but I don't feel like kids now are having an ugly face.
oh my God.
Freshman year
They
to,
look
like,
so pretty.
they look pretty, but
I'm
like,
so mad.
like, great, but also I think you need that. Like,
Oh,
you
yeah.
don't need to.
You need to humble yourself
Yeah.
with an ugly face,
You just
okay?
need to be a kid for a little
Yeah.
bit,
Like,
you
I
know?
remember being in, like, middle school and, I want to be, like, pretty like all those high schoolers. But I'm like, just let yourself be a kid. And I can't imagine feeling that in middle school. And now elementary school kids are feeling like they have to be in crop tops and makeup
Yeah.
and all this stuff.
I feel like this whole situation of young kids looking older than they should is not only harmful to them developmentally, like, you don't get a chance to just be a kid. Like, when I was a kid, I didn't care about how I dressed. I didn't care about how my hair looked, or, you know, if I had makeup on or anything like that. Like, I just wanted to go and hang out with my friends and go to school and have fun. But these kids now, like, every single hair has to be in place. My nails need to be done. My eyelashes need to be done. You know, if you're a guy, then, my body needs to be toned and my hair needs to be perfectly gelled and my clothes need to match. And I have to figure out how to take the exact perfect, you know, Instagram picture for all my friends. It's insane. Like, I have one of my cousins, she's 13 or 14 years old, somewhere around that. And she's beautiful, one of the most gorgeous girls you'll ever see in your life. But it upsets me how sort of involved her life is with social media. Like, every part of her life kind of revolves around it.
Yeah.
And I think for a lot of these kids, it almost feels like if you didn't post it, it didn't happen. And I think that affects them emotionally as well. Like, how many people do you know who are like, oh, when I'm crying, I need to take a picture of myself crying? You know, like, we laugh about it because we think it's funny. Like, why are you taking a picture of yourself crying? But for them, it's like, well, it doesn't really count if I didn't take a photo of it, you know?
Yeah.
Like, how sad is that? That sort of existence of, okay, yes, my phone is my lifeline. It has to be documented or else it truly did not matter.
Yeah.
Like, that is so sad.
And the world must be so much bigger for those kids. Looking at where they have to be and then where they need to be after that, you know? Because right now, all of these kids look so grown up. And I can't imagine being at that age and being like, oh my God, I have to meet this, and then I have to be able to meet everything and beyond, you know?
Yeah.
And the worst part is, no matter what you do, there will always be an expectation you are not meeting. You know, for the guys, if you're muscular enough, you're probably not tall enough. And if you're tall enough, you're not muscular enough, or your hairline isn't the greatest, or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And if you're a girl, then, you know, if you are tall, then you're too tall, or if you're short, you're too short, or if you're, you know, your boobs aren't big enough, and if your boobs are big enough, your waist isn't small enough. If your waist is small enough, then your ass isn't big enough. Like, there is always something that somebody will not like about you. And online, people do not care.
Yeah.
Like, people will go and they will nitpick and zoom in on every little crevice of your body and find something or another to say about it.
People are mean for the sake of being mean.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
And also, I don't know if this is how my parents gave me an exposure to social media or just, like, my personality. I don't have as much, like, I don't have Snapchat. And I feel like that's a big one. But I remember, like, being younger and all my friends would talk about, like, how much they didn't like themselves or, like, them zooming in on other girls on, like, and, like, oh, yeah, she Facetuned this. And I'm like,
oh, yeah.
Like, that was in middle school. Like, if younger kids are having these conversations, like...
Oh, I remember when I was, like, a junior in high school, I went on a school trip. And I got back to my hotel room with, like, my 3 roommates. And they were sitting down, and they were going through their photos and editing them and doing all that. Like, I don't think I've ever edited a photo more than, like, adjusting the lighting because it was too dark. Yeah. But they were going through and Facetuning and doing all this stuff. And then they had this, like, hour-long conversation of, oh, we can't post our picture right now because if we post right now, then nobody's going to like it. And people are going to assume that our followers are just ghost followers and blah, 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 blah. And I was sitting there like I didn't realize this was actually a thing. Like, I thought people were just joking when they talked about it. No, like, this is serious to some people. And, like, I understand if it's your job because social media is a very lucrative form of, you know, like, I guess, excuse me, my brain fart. Social media is a really lucrative form of, like, job, like, self-sustainment nowadays. Yeah. But for just, like, your personal social media that, like, you're not trying to build a platform or you're not trying to gain a following, like, this is just you and, like, a couple hundred, maybe a few thousand people, like, it was insane to see how serious it was for them.
And then people are, like, bringing back, like, make Instagram casual again. And then, like, I feel like all, like, you know, like, April dump or whatever. And I feel like that was supposed to be the way. But then dumps became curated. And there are people that made formulas for how to make your dumps cute. And then, like, Be Real. And that's supposed to show. But you can post late. And I post late most of the time.
Bro, and what's worse, I think, now is, like, I'll look back at old photo albums and things like that, and I'm like, oh, I remember this day, like, it was so much fun, and I'm so glad we have a photo of it, whereas now, it's not that a photo is capturing a moment, it's the moment is the picture. You know, it takes so much time, everybody wants to set up, everybody wants to make sure they have the right angle, and everything looks right, and blah, 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 blah. And it's not, like... I feel like pictures just aren't what they were supposed to be anymore. Like, a photo was meant to capture a moment. Like, it was just supposed to be a snap of a moment, and that was it, and you keep going, and, like, the moment, the memory is what it is. Whereas now, I feel like there's all these videos of people like, oh, behind the Instagram picture, what was actually happening, and, like, oh, it took this long to set it up, and I was freezing, and it was awful, and blah, but, oh, look at how good the picture turned out. Like, it's all about the photo now.
Yeah. And TikTok.
And TikTok.
Oh, yeah.
And TikTok, man.
Especially, I feel like, for relationships, like, like, you know, posting, like, a cute, like, PDA moment is, like...
Like, wow.
It's, like, first of all, you're in a restaurant. Let's be real.
Know.
But, like, I don't know. It's, like, if you don't have, like, a certain amount of pictures to show for, like, your relationship or whatnot, it's like it's not valid.
That, or am I the only one who, like, sometimes I'll be watching a video of, it's supposed to be like an off-guard, like, cute moment of a couple and they're, like, being super lovey-dovey and I'm like, oh my god, this is so adorable, and then my brain just goes, they set up this camera.
Yeah, like
you set up a camera and then walked over and started hugging all up or kissing all up on your boyfriend, and if he didn't know it was there, that's even worse. Like, that...
Like, Bae just hugged me from behind and I didn't even know. And it's like, bro, be for real. Please.
Exactly.
Like, come on.
Or where they're like, oh, I was just filming randomly and he came up and started giving me a hug.
Like, whoa.
Yeah, we totally believe you.
Yeah. And I also feel like relationships on TikTok, like, it is heightened the need for people, especially in high school. That was, like, the thing. Like, you had to be in a relationship.
Oh my god.
Like, and I was like...
Yeah.
And then you have, like, apps like Yubo, and it's, like, to find friends, but I'm pretty sure most people used it. Like, it was, like, Teen Tinder.
Teen Tinder.
Yeah, and, like, just the need to, like, have a relationship to post and everything.
Or to make things Instagram official. And then, like, the way that people, like, even I'm super guilty of this, like, trying to figure out whether or not a couple is still together based off of their Instagram photos. Yes. You're like, okay, 3 days ago she dyed her hair black. That's number one. Second of all, she deleted all of their photos together. Third of all, she took their whatever anniversary date out of her bio.
It's the bio.
It's the bio.
I take a little look. I'm like,
yeah.
Okay, there it is.
Exactly. You're like, ooh, what happened?
Yeah.
What's the tea? It's like nobody needs to know this. Like,
especially with people that I don't know.
oh yeah.
Like it's not people that I know. I'm like, oh, what is like blah 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 doing?
how are they doing?
Bro.
I haven't seen them in a year, but
There is this Muslim couple in like Spain. I don't even know these people's names, okay? But they post the cutest pictures on Instagram, and every time I see them on my like explore page, I'm just like,
Aw.
I want to be you. But
Yeah.
for all I know, like they probably are having like all of these massive issues or like
yeah.
that's the thing, like every time like you open social media, you're like, oh, I wish I had this person's life.
Yeah.
But you don't know what's happening in that person's life.
Especially like when people make their social media about a brand.
Oh
You know,
yeah.
like the couples, like the
The family ones.
Yeah, or the family ones, or like the Try Guys, the Ned Fulmer thing.
Oh
he made
my
his
God.
whole brand on loving his wife.
Yeah.
and it's
You know what,
completely-
Ned Fulmer
180
is the
Oh, yeah.
like Ned broke my freaking heart.
I remember growing up watching the
I
Try
know.
Guys.
The Try Guys were my childhood. I was
Uh-huh.
so depressed, and all Ned ever talked about was his wife.
Exactly.
Literally, that was it. And so finding that out, like that too, like you get so attached to people on social media, and then something happens, and you're like, oh my God,
it's
my
not.
life is over.
Yeah, people like don't make them your idols, and that's like really true. Like I know so many singers, celebrities that have come out as racist, have sexually assaulted someone.
God.
Rex
have
Orange County.
Oh my
I'm telling
God.
you.
Oh.
And it was so heartbreaking seeing that. Like,
Yes.
come on. I
Yeah.
can't have anything nice.
Exactly. It's like, do you still listen to it, or are you just
yeah. Oh, that is a big one too. When people are like, "Oh, you shouldn't be listening to this person, or you should be listening to this person, or blah, blah, blah," and I'm like, it's so hard to keep up with.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how people have the time for it. Sometimes I'm like, when am I supposed to do my schoolwork? When am I supposed to keep up with trends? Like, it's everything is fake. Everything is fake, and
it's too hard to like the
It's
clean
too
girl
much.
thing, and like
Oh,
you know,
don't
like
even get
having
me started on the
perfect
clean
matcha
girl.
latte.
what
Oh
is
my God.
matcha? I've never tried it.
No, it's great. I'm
I
not
actually
gonna lie.
really
I
like
love
Is it
matcha.
good?
I'm not even gonna lie to you. I really like matcha.
Okay.
good.
Maybe I should try matcha. This is all I'm learning.
Oh, yeah.
If you
Matcha
get-
green tea and lemon.
If you get one thing from this podcast today, try a matcha latte.
Rocket.
I would like to veto that. If you get one thing from this podcast, please be safe on social media.
that too, I guess.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting when you get examples of of these things in like your own life. Like recently I had somebody like DM me on Instagram and be like, "Oh my God, it looks like you're always having such a great time." And like the last 3 months of my life have been like
I've been in the trenches.
have been so intense, and I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
like really?
I'm glad you see that.
I'm glad that's what you think.
Mm-hmm.
But like you can't explain that to people, because then they're like, oh, well then why are you posting these pictures? Like, I'm not gonna post a picture of me deathly ill.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I know some people would, but I won't.
Yeah, I don't want to do that.
But also like oversharing, you know.
Oh
like,
yeah.
The oversharing.
Yeah.
Oh
But
my
like
God.
spams. I mean, I love spams. I love a good spam. I love all my friends' spams. They're so
I
fun
like-
to read. But
I like dramatic spams.
Oh,
like
yeah.
where there is some nice piping hot tea that I can read about.
Oh,
sure.
Oh, yeah.
But some spams, like, there are some things I don't need to know.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need to know what you and your boyfriend did last night.
No.
especially underclassmen that I knew, like that were like freshmen last year,
Oh my
and they like
God.
talk about their boyfriends like super sexually, and I'm like,
Wow.
you're 14,
Mm-hmm.
calm down.
Like,
I don't need to
seriously.
read that.
What is your bedtime?
exactly?
Come
like-
on.
Yeah. I'm like, where is your mom?
Mm-hmm.
Where is your mom? Like, I will, like, go into, like, full-on parent mode where I'm like, no, 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 no,
Yeah.
no.
People are just kids, you know.
Bro, just the other day, somebody that I follow, like I've known this girl since like middle school, posted on her story like a screenshot of like a text message between her and a friend of hers talking about how they were like screwing the same guy,
Oh.
or like she was gonna screw a guy that she had been with or something like that, and I'm like, that's not something I don't think people need to know this.
Yeah, like people like you didn't need to post
Yeah,
this.
I
Like, there
between
was
you and
no
her.
need for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, Or, like, the people who will, like, switch up. Like, I know a girl who sometimes will be like, oh, my God, my boyfriend sucks. He's awful. Like, be careful who you choose to have a baby with. Blah, blah.
Yeah.
And then, like, 2 days later, she's like, look at my husband. He's great.
Like, wow.
We have the perfect little family. And I'm like, you can't fake your life on social media if you're also going to, like, talk about how much you hate each other on social media. You know?
Yeah.
Like, pick a struggle.
Especially with relationships. Again, like the soft launching, you know, like
Yeah.
you don't post your boyfriend or something until he like proposes or something. Like, I've seen like a good amount of influencers like, yeah, I just got engaged, didn't tell y'all about it. I'm
Like,
like, you know what? Good for you.
I know,
Yeah.
exactly. I'm like, that makes me happier than anything else. When somebody chooses to, you know, whether or not you choose to share is up to you, but especially people who their job is social media, I get really confused when people are like, how dare you hide things from us and how dare you not tell us about your relationship.
So weird. Like,
Getting to see a part of somebody's life is a privilege.
Yeah.
It's not a right, you know? So if they decide to share that something is happening for them, that's great. Enjoy it. Like, wonderful. Like, be happy for them. Don't ruin it for the rest of us. Like, you know, you're yelling at them and getting mad at them and then they're never going to post again. Okay, I want to know. That too, that like little interest of, I want to know what you're doing. Like, you wake up sometimes and you're like, I wonder what this person is doing right now. And then you like go find them on Instagram and you watch their story and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
You look at their following. Oh, I've never done that, guys. Don't listen to me.
Oh.
Definitely have.
Hope,
But
I feel like you're the type of person, Loki, who would make like a separate fake anonymous Instagram account to go stalk people.
Oh, I have that.
no, I do that boldly.
Stop!
Follow Brinley Tanford on
Oh my
Well, now
God.
you're gonna have to make a new one. We
I
all know what it
guess so.
is.
Yeah. I don't. Now I'm gonna look at my Instagram and be like, "Who's Brinley?"
Bro, have you ever accidentally watched someone's story that you didn't mean to, and then they like
Yes.
try to pretend like you were like creeping on them?
all the time.
It was like
Oh.
posted 3. Sometimes it's an accident. It was like posted 3 seconds ago, and you're like, "Oh,
You have
Oh,
to
yeah.
half swipe.
Oh,
yeah.
You slide in.
Oh no! So my ex best friend, she stopped following me on social media. I'm pretty sure I don't know if she blocked me, but I know she stopped following me. And her boyfriend still follows me. So I was like just watching people's story, and a story came up, and somebody was posting about a new small business. And I like supporting small businesses, so I was like, oh, let me click on the business page. And I was like, oh, this is so interesting. And I'm just like looking through and like looking at the followers and like clicking from at to at through stories to be like, oh, I wonder whose small business this is. And it happened to be my ex best friend's. And I ended up seeing her story because I was like, oh, okay, she started a business. Cool, good for her. Exited, didn't even think about it. Go on Twitter like 20 minutes later, and she's like, you ever catch bitches just creeping on your stories, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, wow. So clearly you
Yeah.
care a lot more about me than I care about you. But it's like those things where you're like, I didn't know this was such a big deal.
Yeah,
It's
social
not
media has
like
made
that.
people into like FBI agents.
Yeah.
Like, oh, they viewed my story, but they said they were asleep, or their Snap score went up by 1.
Oh my God, Snap scores.
Oh my God.
Snapchat was I could never keep up with Snapchat when I was in high school. I don't use it at all anymore.
Yeah.
But like when I was in high school and people were like, oh, send streaks and try and keep a streak. I could not. Like I just couldn't remember. Like somebody like yelled at me one time. They were like, you lost your streak. And I was like, I don't care. Like if you want to talk to me, just talk to me. And people would like flaunt their streaks. I'm like, how many times out of these 100 times did you actually have a conversation?
Like
Or was it just sending a random picture of your ceiling with an S on it and like sending it over?
all the like the unwritten rules of social, like if you have like a Snap score over 1 million or whatever.
Oh yeah, you're a
or,
hoe.
Yeah, or like you can't follow. You have to follow less people than you have.
Then you have
following.
followers. Yeah,
weird.
that.
I was like, what?
Or like especially when it comes to like friendships or like relationships in real life, when people are like, oh, you unfollow this person, or oh, you follow this person, how dare, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, sometimes you're just scrolling and you accidentally hit the button and you don't even realize it. And you're like, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I think overall, all we've learned in our, 19, 20 years of experience is that social media is hard. Living life in the 21st century and dealing with social media and seeing the effects of it on younger generations versus even the effects of it in ourselves is difficult to witness, and it's one of those things that makes you really sit back and think about maybe changes that you should be making in your life, or if you want to be a part of it or not, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's all, you already have, like, all this social etiquette that you have to learn, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I guess, like, American social etiquette, but now you have a whole new one to learn.
Yeah.
Social media, like, if you put a period at the end of when you're texting, that is not...
Oh, yeah,
That's
no, that
not
means
just
you're
having
mad.
good grammar. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're just mad, or, you know, like, being passive-aggressive.
Okay with 1K.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my
Or
god.
1Y. Oh, my God.
Yeah. You reserve that for when you're mad.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Or have you heard of the, if she texts you, hey, with 2 Ys, it
Oh,
means
yeah.
she's into you. Oh, my God. Sometimes you just hit Y twice, okay?
Yeah.
Happens.
In that case, I'm into everybody. 'Cause
Oh, yeah.
I say hey with 2 Y's everywhere.
I know. And it's so hard to decipher, like, feelings for people. Like the amount of people that are like, oh, I wasn't even trying to, like, flirt with them.
Yeah.
It's just, like, because it's
How
not.
do you decipher feelings through a DM? I'm so sorry. Like,
Yeah,
what?
Like,
You're
Like-
sitting there in a text and like, okay,
Yeah.
the emotion in this one was wrong. Like,
Exactly.
yeah.
Like, my brain so often is like, are you being nice? Are you into me? Am I into you? What's happening?
Yeah.
You know?
and it's, like, the whole thing is, like, I can't imagine, like, I don't know, like, getting someone's vibe or something like
Yeah.
that. Like, I don't know. I'm like so it's like so common now to hear I'm like met him off of Tinder or Bumble and now we're
I
getting
think his
married and
vibe.
it's like what? And it's also weird because my parents met through email and so
Aw.
they're like one of the first people that like like
Met through social media.
yeah, and so I'm like, okay,
How do you meet someone through email?
it's a long story.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Not really, but
We can save that for next time.
Mhm.
Thank you so much for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I hope you got to learn a little bit of our insights on social media and the different effects that it can have on people. And if there's one thing I hope you guys take from this, it's just be safe. Don't talk to strangers online or in person. And if you do, then please don't go meet them. That's my one thing. Please don't go meet strangers from the internet in person. But anyways, I think it's really important that we focus on how to handle social media in a healthy way. Make sure you're taking breaks. Make sure you're checking in with yourself and with your friends. Thank you so much, Nina, for joining us. I hope you had fun.
I did.
But yeah, I guess that is the end of this episode. I hope you guys will join us next week for the next episode of The First Draft, and I hope you have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.